city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey
Check.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
Welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab.
Well, hello and welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab. We are still here doing what we do at Mile High Hockey. I am Adrian Hernandez. I am here today so far with Ezra Parter, Brennan Vogt, and Jackie K. Jackie dropped out, but I think we'll get her back here in a second. Thank you, folks, so much for joining the program. Even though it's the offseason for the Avalanche, we have plenty to talk about today. Plenty of fun off-season topics to include some of the pending free agents here to hit the table, both for the Avalanche and for other teams around the league. We'll touch a little bit on the conference finals that are to be coming up here tonight, I believe, is when we get started. And, of course, we will get a little breakdown and an update from Mr. Brennan Vogt on another championship run that's happening here in the great hockey state of Colorado. And, of course, finish with our bold predictions. And I don't know, maybe we'll spin a wheel today. That's how you know it's the offseason, when we got a wheel with a bunch of random free agents on it and some Avalanche players that may or may not be on the chopping block. But, you know, this means we've turned the page here at the Mile High Hockey Lab, and we are on to 24-25 / JK 25-26 is what we are on to now. Thank you to the three of you, Ezra, Jackie, and Brennan, for joining me. No Evan today, but we'll get him back next time. No problem, Evan Lou. We still love you, big dog. So let's just drop the puck on everything and get started. Have some fun with it today. Jackie, I'll start with you. Just your thoughts on how the playoffs are shaking out. Obviously, we've seen another round since the Avs were eliminated. We have Edmonton and Dallas in the West, and Carolina and Florida out east, with last year's finalist and two playoff perennials making up this group of four. Who do you think is most geared towards success in this championship hockey?
Oh, I think they all have a chance. I guess if you had to bet on one, I'd probably say the defending champs, since they already proved that they could do it, and I think they have a better team this year. Mm-hmm. I think it's scary because for them, it doesn't matter if they're down, and that's the mark of a really strong team that can come back from being in a 2-game deficit like that. But I think all of the teams are strong. I've always been skeptical of Edmonton, but I mean, credit that they're were in the Cup finals last year and they were able to get back to the Final Four. So, I mean, there's some legitimacy there too. I don't know. I think all four are strong teams. It's nice to see Carolina finally get over that second round hurdle. And then, I mean, Dallas is where they've been, 4 out of the last 6 years. Right. So that's not unexpected. So I think any of the four could win it. But if I had to bet, you just bet on the defending champs because they know how to get it done.
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet. And I like your observation about them in terms of their resolve, in terms of being a team that doesn't give up. I mean, not to not to dump on the Avalanche, but in this season's version of the Avalanche, I mean, it was like the exact opposite feeling. When the Avs had a lead, it felt like impending doom. We were all, clutching the couch a little bit and worried. But in the instance of the Florida Panthers, they get behind and it's kind of like, oh yeah, we've been here before. We can do this. This kind of sets up well for the Panthers. So I agree with you there. I think that I wrote about them, Ezra, in my question to you, which is I wrote that Florida feels like they're a deep team while being top heavy, which is funny because if they are to win, they'll be the first team to win with a $10 million player, as Barkov officially hit the books at above 10 million this season in their repeat year, not last year. So how do you see this playoffs shaping up in terms of like what other teams who aren't in the tournament still can learn from these teams and how they're approaching? I mean, Dallas is a deep team with some young and affordable contract in essential places like Duchesne at 2.5, I believe, for 2C. And then, of course, you have Johnston still on his ELC for this last 1 year, and Harley, of course. And then Edmonton, as Jackie kind of just laid out, is a truly top-heavy team. I think they're deeper maybe than folks had thought, but also at the same time, like star power got them through LA. And then I think Vegas isn't quite what they were despite being a heavy team. What approach will win out, as Carolina is a lot like Dallas in the sense that they're deep, but not with like one major contract?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're looking at three teams that are very deep and very defensively structured, and one team that is the Edmonton Oilers, who I don't think can win. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I feel like that's kind of the key is a defensive structure throughout four lines on offense and a defense core that can support that offense in that offensive group in the defensive zone very effectively. Mm-hmm. I wrote about Dallas's defense group when we previewed the Colorado series, and I stand by what I said about most of these guys being, kind of a little bit scrubby, but they are all very structured defensively, which overcame some of their offensive shortcomings because they're able to clear the zone effectively, and their offense was able to be generated in other ways.
Sure.
But I think ultimately what teams should be learning from these guys, all four of these teams, is you will only be able to ride on the coattails of your superstars so far. You have to have solid depth throughout your lineup. And I think that's a lesson the Avs have been trying to put into place already. So,
yeah.
It's
one thing to know that as true and another to act on it and try and make it a reality. And it's not a perfect world and we're all human beings. So our approach to doing exactly what you're talking about might differ from one person to the next. And that same is true with Avs management. So I think you're right. Like, I think intention is absolutely to do what we're seeing in these final four teams, but just in the Colorado Avalanche version. Brennan, you've been quiet over there. You've been polite, but you've been handsome. So I'll give you your question now. Speaking of these characteristics and how important they are to winning championships, tell me a little about what the Colorado Eagles are doing within their playoff run, and then give me your thoughts on kind of the NHL playoffs as well.
Well, they're not giving up. And they're making the adjustments.
Yeah.
Unlike another team that we know.
Yeah.
So the difference between game 1 and game 2 against Abbotsford was honestly kind of night and day. It was more of a physical game during game 1. Abbotsford came out and just was like, okay, I'm going to beat your butt down against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to make you pay just for even crossing the blue line. And so Sammy Bly is just not a nice person. Or Sammy Blay, sorry.
Yeah.
But we all know him from the St. Louis run.
Mm-hmm.
The St. Louis series in 22, because I believe he was part of that. And all he knows how to do is just hit.
Right.
At the AHL level, he can actually score too, but it's the AHL. So
yeah.
Game 2, the Eagles fought back. They actually were hitting and causing commotion and things like that. I'll just put it this way: Sammy Blais had 28 minutes in penalties alone,
Wow. That's
just
crazy.
by himself, because he was getting that agitated.
Mm-hmm.
And it was things like Chase Bradley just pushing him around and then just walking away.
Yeah.
They'd hit him against the boards and just be like, F you. And Jacob McDonald would hit him against the boards and then just walk away. Devontae Stevens would just hit him against the boards and then walk away. It was simple. They kept their game simple, but effective. And they shot one less shot on net and scored more.
Right.
So they found the holes when they were shooting. They were actually being effective with their shots. So
yeah.
hopefully, going into blue is going to make a huge difference because they had the best record in the AHL at home. So they're at home for the next 3, if necessary, at least 2. And then so hopefully Blue Arena is going to make a difference, but and then the altitude's going to make a difference. But just having no travel now, at least. So cross your fingers that it's over on Friday.
Yeah, I was going to say. Go ahead, Jackie. Sorry.
If the AHL had a salary cap, the Eagles would be in trouble.
Oh,
yeah, for sure. I was about to say, I'm looking at like some of these names that we've seen contribute as contributors towards the Eagles' success on this run, and it's like Chris Wagner, Ivan, TJ Tynan, John Ludwig. I mean, they're not big names in terms of NHL contracts, but they're guys who play NHL games, and so their contracts are competitive in terms of that. So absolutely. But we know Jacob McDonald has his 30-goal season, sets the record in the AHL. But tell me, Brendan, like, how important has it been to get contributions from guys like Yuri and Inola and Jake Wise and Chris Wagner?
And Inola hasn't played in the playoffs at all.
Really?
Yeah, because
they said a lot of guys. I think a lot of guys are riding the pine.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's the development rule still is in effect during the playoffs.
Oh, okay.
So
not unfortunately. I mean, how much you want them to cheat? They're already cheating. Well, how much more do you want them to cheat?
Well, you get my point. It's like so. If you look up the development rule, I strongly dislikes it.
It should be even more strict.
Well,
if you can't manage a roster, like, just sign somebody else. There's so many exceptions. It doesn't count ECHL time. It doesn't count time in the current season. So if you're you're under for the whole season. It doesn't count goalies.
Yeah.
So
there's some weird rules there.
If you need, like, if you can't manage that, if you can't manage more than 6 veterans, if you're complaining that isn't enough, then you're not getting it. It's not a development team.
My argument is that it pushes guys like Brad Hunt out of the league.
It shouldn't. Sure. Like, why should it? Then don't sign Callie Rosen. Is Brad Hunt better than Callie Rosen? Yes. Then why didn't you sign him?
Well, yeah, but that's my point. It's like Brad Hunt. He's it
de-incentivizes the Brad Hunt type.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's a good AHL player, and he didn't get a contract because they went after, Jacob McDonald and Callie Rosen. And
why didn't he get a contract from anybody else?
He did. He got one from Hershey.
Well, then it didn't push him out of the league.
Well, it pushes guys like him out of the league, and it pushes them over to Europe because they can't get NHL contracts. But
maybe that's better. Like, playing in, if you realize you're not really going to be in the show, like, would you rather be playing in Syracuse or in Switzerland?
Switzerland, baby.
Be honest,
where your family is.
Yeah.
Well, okay. There's
you're close to your family.
But
the environment's familiar. You're not having
plenty
to
of
talk to the coach in a
there's
different
plenty
language.
of AHL jobs if you want them.
But anyways, Inola hasn't been playing because he has pro games already. They count his his what is it, SHL games as
Gotcha.
his development. So he was in that rotation with Megna and Phillips and Wagner and
Right.
McDonald. Well, actually, McDonald was usually getting.
Well, I
the
remember him
playing
being
time.
in the rotation. That's why I brought him up, because I kind of figured he was still there, but I guess
Yeah,
not.
yeah, he
There's
just
so many. Like, are they all just marginalized? Like, was Steinberg just marginalized? Is Prishapov now?
well,
people
Steinberg got
think,
the start last game because they needed the weight.
or
Yeah.
Dufour, people still think like he's an option. He doesn't play either. None of the new signees. I know they gave McCarr one game probably because they knew Kale was going to show up. Cooper Gay doesn't play. Like, so many of the players there just don't play, and I assume they're all healthy. Like you said, Ashawn is the only one that
Yeah.
is actually injured. The rest of them, if you don't see them in the lineup, they're just
So
they're
what
not
you're
part of the
saying
team.
is they should have just kept Landeskog out of the playoffs altogether, because he could have just kept playing with the Eagles.
Well,
That's
that's
true.
not exactly how it works. He would eat up the majority of
I know.
the development rules.
I'm being
so,
facetious. Is
yeah,
all I'm saying.
as much as I'd love to have Landeskog going on this playoff run with
Right.
them, but
then you're really cheating at that point.
and then McCarr has gotten a game because they needed the weight.
Or they knew Kale was showing up.
Well, that
Here's the thing.
but
You sneak him out there, McCarr.
yeah, McCarr's he's not a half bad player. It's just he's when you need the weight, he's kind of like a Steinberg. Throw him in there, and he'll hit you in the open ice. He'll let you know he's there.
I liked his play in front of the net too. When I was in town for the Landeskog fiasco, I really liked how McCarr was not afraid to like get in those hard areas, and that's what you got to do when you got that frame, right? That's where you it's where you butter your bread. Well, that's good to know. I'm happy to hear that there's still championship hockey happening in Colorado, and I really do hope that the Eagles can see it through completely. Hope that optional game coming up, I believe on the 25th, is indeed canceled because they sealed the deal in the next one. And that's an interesting structure that the AHL has. I know I think it's 23 teams into the playoffs, something like that. So it's a much different style, but I like it. I think it's made for some entertainment, and the Landeskog whole thing got me to get Flow TV, and so now I've just been watching a lot of the AHL. And so
Good.
I mean, score 1-4 that whole endeavor as it pertains to the Eagles. So
I actually
really
do have
cool.
the bracket pulled up if you guys want to
Yeah.
see it, and
Let's
it does have the best of.
Yeah, put it up there so people can get an understanding, because it's actually kind of interesting. I don't know if I would ever want this sort of thing in professional ranks, but if there were to be
It
an
is
expanded,
professional.
I mean, I should
Don't
say
you downplay it.
The NHL ranks. I would say like expanding on the playoffs is a bad idea, but if you were to do it, I think that the AHL has some interesting ideas. So
I got to figure out which screen it is.
Well, while you're bringing that up, I want you to think about what you have to say as it pertains to the final four teams left in this NHL bracket. So here's the way the Calder Cup looks.
Okay.
Look at that.
Okay, so with the Pacific Division has 10 teams, they're a little bit bigger, so that's why they have a larger, more teams that are in that play-in round, or as Jackie likes to call it, or the non-first round, as she calls it.
Or the fake round.
The fake round. I still call it the first round because it is what it is. It's the first round.
Well, then you should say first of 5. If you're just calling it round 1, 2, 3, then you have to say of 5.
Yeah.
So
And
yes,
so
the Eagles are round
obvious-
3 of 5.
And since the Eagles were first in the Pacific, they got the bye.
Yeah.
And so they sat and waited and then waited for the lowest seed to come to them, which in that case was San Jose beating Ontario.
Okay.
And then they won it in it's a best of 5 in the second round in the semifinals for both ends.
Right.
And I think it was San Jose they beat in 4. And then now they're in a best of 5 again with the division finals. Both teams, Abbotsford and Colorado, have never made the division finals. So this is new to everyone.
Yeah.
Next will be conference finals, what the NHL is in right now, of course. That is a best of 7. And then the Calder Cup finals, where you finally meet the other side, and then that is best 7. I'm predicting that it will be Laval,
Hershey.
No, Hershey's actually losing. Charlotte.
Okay.
So Laval feeds into Montreal, and then Charlotte feeds into Florida.
Let's get down to business. We really want that Texas versus Colorado Western Conference.
I don't want it.
You do.
They played Texas this year. I think they even played
did,
Milwaukee.
and it did not go well.
Well, yeah, we know about that. Well, that's good. That's a really good update, Brandon. Thank you for sharing that information with us, because I honestly feel like if I did take any one thing away from the season and how things shook out with the Landeskog thing, it did get me to buy into the Eagles in a way that I hadn't before. And I think that's really cool. Like, you look at the Eagles, they're a team who just became an AHL affiliate. I mean, in the 2018-2019 season. So we're talking a very short time frame to get to where they have gotten. Obviously, Jackie, as you pointed towards, the results for the Avalanche have dictated a little bit of their roster and being able to stack it as much as they can to a point. And that's helpful, but either way, it's good to see the AHL affiliate of the Avalanche realizing some success. And although the Avalanche didn't get the outcome that we all desired, I think they experienced some success too. So the franchise as a whole is still, to me, in a successful window. And that is exciting things we can look toward to the future. But Brandon, as we sit here and now, it's Edmonton and Dallas in the West. Right? Isn't that the grossest matchup you could have conjured heading in? And what's funny is, Dallas was looked at as a team who could. Early on in the season, maybe as the playoffs came around, people had question marks with Heiskanen and Robertson not being available. But nonetheless, they were Stanley Cup favorites for a majority of the season. And then you look at Edmonton, who was rumored to be losing depth and all this other stuff. Where are you at with that Western Conference? And then touch a little bit on your favorite Florida Panthers and a specific player over there.
Well, let's see. Do we really want a Canadian team to win it?
I don't. Nope.
Yeah. So, because Canada will riot.
It's all I have left at this point.
Yeah. And
it would just perpetuate way too many old school thoughts.
Yeah, it would be so bad for hockey if Edmonton won.
They won't.
Isn't that hilarious? Like, McDavid's supposed to be the face of the league, the best player in the league, yada yada, and our entire panel's like, God, if Edmonton wins, it would be terrible for the game.
Well, they've surrounded him with such goonery. It's like, what?
Yeah,
it's no wonder they haven't been able to pull it off.
Yeah,
be back to nobody needs a goaltender.
Yep.
Yeah. They've got such Swiss cheese back there, and then Calvin Pickard is come out of nowhere and actually been successful with them. So
they call him Picard out there. Is that how you're supposed to pronounce it?
No.
They literally call him Calvin Picard, and I'm like, who?
It's not. We've heard his name for years and years and years and years. It's Picard.
They've just been watching too much Star Trek.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, exactly, bro.
And it's like, I hope he gets healthy just so he can win it. But that's the only reason that I wish that Edmonton wins it, so Pickard can get his name on the cup, because
that would be cool.
The only thing I like about Edmonton is Podkolzin. And I know that he's not what he was drafted to be, but I like that he's had a resurgence in Edmonton. Like, he's had a good playoffs. I think he has 6 points. So,
and I'll say this, like, we dumped on that Darnell Nurse contract, and it still doesn't look great by any means, but it's not as bad as I thought it was initially. So I think it's still bad, Ezra. Don't get me
I think
wrong.
they have him on the third
Not
pair,
as
don't
bad.
they? But then again,
I
know what's on paper isn't necessarily reality, but I think on paper
he's getting
he's on the third
most
pair.
minutes with Ekholm not in the lineup.
Yeah.
With Ekholm in the lineup, he's a number 4 for them,
which
he's overpaid, but he's capable of being a second pair, third pair guy.
Well, and then for me, it's Carolina, because Tyson Jost. That's my dog.
I hadn't even thought of that, honestly.
That's my dog.
I do love Josie.
And then I also
Jost and
Carolina, He
Is
deserves
he's not
Just,
playing, is
that
he?
didn't even phase me. So
I think he's been. Let me look. And then the other angle for me is what's his name in Florida that used to be an Av? Why he's blanking me. He's a
Greer.
classic.
Greer is
AJ
Well,
in
Greer.
Greer, but
Florida.
also Evan Rodriguez.
Yeah, sure.
Well, he's already won it, so I mean, there's.
True. Didn't Greer?
But
Oh, he was.
No.
with
no,
Boston.
he was. Yeah,
Never mind.
Greer
No, I
was
would
with
love-
Boston and then went to Florida.
Yeah.
I'd
yeah.
love to see him win the cup.
wouldn't that
Yeah.
be funny? Because he's like he's the one who had like that ridiculous moment in the penalty box, if I remember correct. Yeah, in the AHL. Or am I thinking of somebody else? Where he like fought the whole other team and then like came out of the box after already being sent to the box. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else, but
I think you're just thinking of someone else.
yeah.
But I mean,
trying to
that's
look-
catnip. Organizations love that.
That's
Exactly.
typical in the
Catnip, I
AHL, dude.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if it doesn't look like Josti has any playoff games, but he's participated in the regular season enough that he would be on the cup. So let's just put that.
Does he have 40 games?
Yes,
40.
he does. Let me.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God! Can you imagine if he once again was like just shy?
They would get an exception.
He would lift. He would at least lift it, like
Guys,
Magna and stuff.
he has
lifted the cup for
39
us.
games.
No.
They would get an exception, especially if he's a black ace right now.
I'm writing a letter. Like he has to. Like
He
Well, he would at
39.
least lift the cup.
Oh my God! Can you imagine?
That's amazing.
Stays off of it still. 'Cause he
Well,
only played 39
so
games.
because I think like Jason Magna, he didn't have enough games with the Avs.
Yeah, he's
And-
not on the cup, but he got a ring and got to lift the cup.
Yeah,
so, I mean, it's
he was
not
on the ice. He
nothing.
got to do the
Gotcha.
celebration. They gave him a ring. He was at their like ceremonies and all that fun.
Well, in that
junk.
case, they should have let Jost do it in 22 too. I mean, he was on a team that wasn't.
No, he wasn't on that team.
you saw the interviews, right?
Yeah, well, they let Jack Johnson come out in the Chicago Blackhawks jersey and watch the banner go up the next year.
He
Yeah,
was
but he
on
was-
that team.
Okay, all right.
Joe
you're
did
right.
get screwed though. I mean,
All right, fair.
He really did.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I sound so Italian when I say at the end of the day like that. But who scored a pretty important goal for the Avalanche in the Stanley Cup final? It was the guy that they got for Tyson Jost. It was
he
a
was
little fluky.
injured.
Yeah, it was a little fluky, but it happened.
Wasn't Sturm injured by then? Like,
Yeah.
I don't.
I think it was Cogs that put a puck off of Sturm.
But was
his
he
rear
playing
end,
by
yeah.
then? I feel like he was too injured by
Yeah,
the
He
cup
definitely had.
final. I think he had an elbow injury, and I think he wasn't playing by the end.
yeah. But I mean, we had him when we needed him for that goal. I feel like that was in Game 6, though. I think it was the. No, it couldn't have been. I'm losing my mind. It must have been in Game 4 when they just went off. But here we are again, getting ready to spin the wheel. And this time the wheel is about players that, I mean, we've gone into the list. You guys are going to laugh at some of the guys on this, but I made it this way because I wanted to give credence and some opinion to some of the rumors that we're hearing, some of the names that have already come to the table in terms of replacements for Nelson or Nelson himself and how that's going to shake out. I did a pollster the other day that you can find on the website, milehighhockey.com, basically asking fans if they thought that they should re-sign Nelson, and the majority of fans said yes. I think Jackie and I are in agreement that they shouldn't. But let's spin the wheel and we will see if Mr. Brock Nelson comes up. We got guys like Granlund, who's going to be a free agent for Dallas, Tavares, Marner, Bennett, Ross Colton's been talked about in terms of offloading his contract, Jonathan Drouin, Josh Manson, Sam Girard, a defender, Brandon, your favorite, Yanni Gord. So let's just get into it. Let's spin this.
Oh my god.
Oh my Gord is right. Sorry, I want to make sure I can see you guys still while I put the wheel up, because sometimes I just go blind and then this is pointless. So here we go. Pick her wheel, bring her on up. All right. Let's have some fun with this, y'all. Let's see. Every year it lands on the most prevalent topic when on the first spin. Let's see if that remains true. Oh. Wow. Let's talk about Ross Colton. Ross Colton coming in at $4 million. He's literally on the Avalanche homepage right now, and the title of the article reads, Ross Colton hitting a stride in year 3 with the Colorado Avalanche. It did feel like Ross had himself a pretty decent season for the Avs, and he's coming in at that $4 million mark, but was unfortunately unavailable in the later parts of the season to include the playoffs against Dallas. Who wants this one? Who has thoughts on Ross Colton? Here's how I'm going to put it on the table. Some people have proposed that he could be somebody that could be dumped essentially for some draft equity or a player at a cheaper price point. And within that thinking is promoting guys like Kibi Ranta and, having Lehkonen more available with Landeskog and yada, yada, yada. Anyone have Brendan? You had a pretty immediate thought. Jackie, go ahead.
Or Brennan can go first.
Well, I was gonna say, doesn't Colton have a no movement? I'm trying to get to it.
He had a no movement for this season, but then it goes back to I don't think it was even ever reported how many team no trade clauses because nobody ever bothered to report on it.
Yeah, let me go see. Cap wages. Go ahead, Jackie, if you got a thought, though.
Okay. I just don't want to get into the off season assuming they're just going to magic wand away all their problems. Just get rid of Manson and Colton and Wood and just have all this cap space. I mean,
it is modified and there are no details. You're correct. Jackie.
Exactly. There's never been any details. I guess just assume it's not super prohibitive. I don't think the Avs are a team that gives out the 3-team no clause or anything. It's probably, Miles Wood even has trade protection. I'm not sure if we all are aware of that.
It's only 6 teams, though.
Okay, true. Yeah. However, that's going to take
zero.
out all of the teams that would be. If the argument always is, well, some stupid team is going to need to hit the cap floor. He can waive those away. So, so it's not going to be as simple. So I'm not going to approach this entire discussion with we're just going to get rid of everybody. They're just going to trade all these players away because A, they don't do that very often at all.
Right.
And B, they need to replace them. And so no, signing Kibi Ranta is not the answer if you trade away Ross Colton. Now, do I still think he has some value? Yeah, 2 years term, he has some ability. I don't think he's a total albatross, but I also don't think teams are going to be knocking down the door for Ross Colton. He did have a great stretch. He was also playing on line with McKinnon. I think he also was one of those shooting percent bingers when he was doing it. So
he was. He was your goal. He was actually your golden child for a moment there.
So that part isn't oh, why can't he get back to what that was? Because it wasn't sustainable. That's not who he is. But do I think he has value? Do I think he has ability? Yes. But I also think the Avs need him. So I think that's going to be very difficult, is that you're going to have to find somebody to take him at positive value, and then you're going to have to replace him. So I just don't think it's going to happen. I think Ross Colton's coming back. They're just going to have to figure out exactly how he fits in the lineup. He can play higher. He can play more of a second line role, but it has to be managed with the right line mates, et cetera, et cetera. I think between Colton and Coyle, that's your one. That's your 2 and 3C. You're just gonna have to suck it up and live with it.
Yep.
Because that's the bed they made. Those are the players they have. They're paying both of them and not an insignificant amount of money, and you're just gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I'm with you, Jackie. I think that's kind of what I was alluding to when I brought the topic, which was it's time
you have
for
some
the Avs.
Decent wingers. You have decent play driving, defensive wingers. You just need to let the 2C go. You have to let it go.
They have to lie in the bed they've made.
Yes.
Finally.
If you're going to keep digging the hole, it's not going to happen. You've already proven you can't find a 2C under a rock. You're not getting a cheap one. You're not trading for one. You're not signing one. You don't have one. So accept it.
Well, and here's the thing for me. People forget really quickly that the reason the Avalanche could go get Kadri, Burakovsky, etc., was because they had Nathan McKinnon on a very friendly deal in terms of his production and his cost. They had Cale Makar on a very friendly deal in terms of their 2 best players were at great value. And then you mix in a little bit of Val Nichushkin at the league minimum. So you have all of this extra millions. And within that is room to make mistakes. Right now, as the Avalanche sit, they don't have that equity anywhere. So they don't really have as much room for mistakes. And so I think it is just time to sleep in the bed that they have made and go to bat with the system. If they believe in the system as they said they do in the offseason by not making the move that some people were calling for. If that's the case, then this should and could work with the guys you have. Hindsight tells us, man, maybe we should have thought that earlier on. But yeah, Brandon, go ahead. What are your thoughts on this Ross Colton debate?
I think Ross Colton needs to be this 2C. When was he the most successful? When he was at the second center
and the power play at the bumper position.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And before he broke his foot, he was playing the second center, and he was at more than a point per game.
Mm-hmm.
So
and Nuke was out, so no one was there to play the bumper as well as Landy, right?
Exactly. So I think I think we even debated this at the beginning of this season. It's like, and I was telling you guys, the more he's going to play, the more he'll produce. They put him on the second line, the more he produced, and he got hurt. And what do you know what happened to the power play? So they need to put him back at second center. Don't worry about it. It's easier to replace a fourth liner than it is a second liner. And we've already accounted for his money. So he's not going anywhere. I doubt he wants to go anywhere. So just keep him.
Yeah. Well, and like as the years go by, even the Miles Wood contract, even though that one is a stinker right now, as the years go by and the cap increases, it's going to be less of an issue.
But you know who is also a free agent? Brad Marchand.
There it is. There it is. I was
didn't mention him while talking about the Panthers.
Panthers, good for you.
To him now.
Why wouldn't he stay in Florida?
Oh, he's got it, right?
Oh, he's gonna.
Here's the thing, though. Let's just spin the wheel again, because maybe we'll get to the person that I was just about to talk to, and if we don't, that's also fine. Whatever, no big deal. All right, so we spun the wheel and it landed on Ross Colton. Yeah, go ahead.
Agree. No, I agree.
Okay, cool, perfect. Keep him is the take, right? That's what you agree with? Okay, cool.
He needs to play center. He's being paid to play center.
Good point. Feel a lot better about that price point if he's playing center. Speaking of.
Oh, heck no.
I just put this one on there because he's a pending unrestricted free agent. But I think the chances of this happening are very, very, very low. How hilarious would it be to clip that in like 3 months and be wrong? But I just don't see price point wise, Avs picture, big picture wise, I just don't see this being a reality. Does anybody disagree with that?
No, I mean, I think Tavares, like, he specifically he's a better Ryan Johansson. He won't fit because of his speed. He has much higher ceiling than Ryan Johansson, to be clear. But he does not fit because of his speed. And if he wanted to come play for super cheap, it still just wouldn't fit. So even if it was a great discount deal, it's not going to work. Okay. There's a version of him that is a successful power play player and a down the lineup assist man, decent defensive forward, but I don't think he plays with the speed the Avs want, so I don't think it makes sense.
If the Avs get anyone that is a Toronto Maple Leaf, and I know you're going to back me on this, Adrian, is that I would prefer Mitch Marner, but I know he's completely out of the price points. So
that is honestly, I thought about having a Mitch Marner moment in this, specifically because he kind of strikes me as a guy who might have similar approach as Drew Wynn because of how terrible his time has been in Toronto. He's going to be pretty picky, choosy about where, specifically as it pertains to the attention, I think, that he gets. I think that, some fans poo-poo that and say, yeah, well, that's a part of playing for the best teams in the league, yada, yada, yada. You're still going to have pressure in Colorado. But, I mean, it's just different to play in America than it is
He could walk
play.
Down the street in Denver.
And so I think that as we've seen from Jonathan Drouin, who last year I think had more leverage than he even does in this offseason, he was willing to take less and make it work because of the fit in terms of those other things like the family and the location, and of course, as Jackie said, just walking down the street. So that's going to play an interesting role. I do think he ends up somewhere like Carolina, or not like specifically Carolina, but a team like them who has a very basic, so to speak, fan base, not to be rude, but just not the craziness that is hockey. And
I think honestly he'll come out west.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. See, players that have been in the East their whole life, it's funny. You see Western guys stay more West, and you see Eastern guys stay more East.
Yeah, because they're familiar with it, but
it's just difficult. That's another reason why. Hello, Nelson. But
yeah. Locked On Avalanche threw out the idea that Marner heads to Utah, that they make an attractive offer.
I could see that.
He'd be the face. Here's a good
one. Where the money is.
Here's a good one that I like. Vladislav Gavrikov. Raj from Altitude brought this guy to the table for me.
Yeah, he did.
Attention. He's pricey. He's like $6 million, but a part of his approach was sending Gerard in the process. How does
that make you? How does that make you better?
That was my thought.
You already are missing a top 4 defenseman.
That's what I said. He's going to play 3 and 4. Yeah.
I mean, if you think bigger and slower is better, then yeah, sure.
I want twirly boys.
Yeah.
We're just eternally going to be missing a top 4 defenseman, and then that's what the rental has to be every year, because you don't have that.
Well, he said promote Sam Malinsky to the 4th pairing D, but I mean, come on.
That's not going to happen. We'll see if he's even there on opening night.
You think you hate Sam Girard? You wait until you put Sam Malinsky at 4th defender, and then you're really going to be mad at yourself.
Well, and it'd be like kind of equivalent to having another Josh Manson in speed, and so it's like people bag on Josh Manson. It's like, okay, do you really want another one?
Well, and Manson has a much higher offensive ceiling. It's just a mistake. I mean, Gavrikov could fit as a 3rd pairing defender who doesn't get paid that much, but that's not what he's going to be somewhere else. So it's not going to happen. But I want to go back to the Malinsky Gerard thing really quick, because I think everybody who's excited about Malinsky is right to be excited about Malinsky. I'm a big fan, but what I see in him is like one day he could be Sam Girard, and Sam Girard's already that guy. So what are we doing? It doesn't make any sense. Sam Girard's already Sam Girard on a great contract. You're not getting better value than that. It doesn't make any sense.
And then how many more? You want the last remaining shreds of your cup team gone? Like, you really going to get better the further and further and further away you move away from it?
No.
And
back to the paperclip thing.
I just want to
trade back to the paperclip. Yeah.
On the Toronto boys, I didn't say my piece there.
Sure.
I think Tavares makes sense for everybody that still thinks that signing Nelson is a good idea. I mean, no, I don't think it's a good idea, but I'm saying if you're already at that stage, then Tavares isn't worse. But the Avs don't sign big name free agents. They just haven't. No. They don't get in the bidding war. They don't pay for name recognition, at least there. They'll pay for name recognition in a trade, but not as far as contracts. So, and then the Marner thing, like, I'm sure he'd be fine. The whole, like, oh, he's not good or whatever. Like, he's an excellent player.
He is.
Yeah. If we're not even talking about money,
player. Yeah.
Marner's a great player. He would be great on the Avs, but money-wise, it's not going to happen.
No chance.
Yeah.
The only way it happens is if you decide to leverage somewhere else, which would fly in the face of exactly what you did with, I don't know, a guy named Mikko Rantanen. Because
I'm not even sure. Where are you going to find $13 million? You still have Netchaz. You still have all these other guys.
You already said you're not going to do that. You are because you had that. Because that was my question when we started talking about this. This would be a move that would reestablish the core in a different way. But it would be the way it was established when Mika was there. He would be the 2 to Nathan's 1. And it would probably work swimmingly, but then you'd be talking about, oh, well, you now have 2 players making north of $10 million. How are you going to fill the rest of these holes? We'd be crying about 2C. We would be having a tough time on the penalty kill. And then therein lies the issue. Therein lies
I
the
mean, they're
thinking
already
and training
there.
regimen. Yeah,
Like
exactly.
we haven't even paid Netchus yet. That's not going to be a cheap contract. That could be over $10 million.
Yeah, and he's got 1 year left, so they don't have to think about it for.
Oh yeah,
a
they
bit,
do.
but-
They have to think about it this
I-
They
summer.
should-
He's
Oh
a-
yeah, but I mean, you get my point. Is
He's
that-
an unrestricted free agent. I mean, if you don't get it done this summer, you're in the exact same position where he has all the leverage and you don't.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to do it this summer, which they usually do take care of all the new toys, but they don't have the leverage.
This brings me back
Again.
to an uncomfortable question. Would you rather pay too much for Mikko Rantanen or too much for Marty Necas? And I know that too much for Marty is still maybe 4 less than Mikko.
I don't know about 4. It's not going to be
It should
4.
be.
But I think like that's
But
a
it is
reasonable
less.
assumption. Yeah, like less is a reasonable assumption. So that is the philosophy. I mean, I look over at, literally like across the hallway at the Nuggets, who took the Denver Nuggets, the NBA team. They basically took the exact opposite approach. Yeah, I know I had
What other Nuggets are there?
I had to give some reference there. But they took the exact
mix.
opposite approach. They looked at their team and they said, we like our core. We like our top paid players. Our max contracts is what it is in the NBA. And they basically said, okay, well, if they're not the issue, then it's management and it's coaching. And they offloaded management and coaching. Well, the Nuggets turn out to be a team that was top heavy. And once Jokic left the floor and those other guys mentioned that were a part of their core kind of underperformed, they had nothing to bring to the table to get them further into the playoffs. So it just goes to show you, like, there's a million ways to lose. There's a million ways to win. And I think the Avalanche just have to look around, collect their rocks, and try to build something new, because that's where they are. And I think if you learn from this wheel as we continue to spin it, I'm going to spin it again as I finish my spiel, is that all of these moves, moving any of these guys they're moving for.
We can't see it.
Oops. It's
Oh,
spinning.
yeah.
And it's perfect.
Oh, boy.
Perfect. So the reason why this is difficult is because, you still have to fill 2C, and you still are left with that decision. Do I invest in Brock Nelson, who, I don't know, at best felt like he could potentially work, but it didn't necessarily work to the tune of what we're expecting and to the tune of likely what he'll get paid? Who wants this one? Brock Nelson, should he be re-signed or not? Jackie, you want to take
All
it
right,
first?
I'll start.
Okay.
Well, first of all, if we're going to continue the infatuation with 2C, then they should have just kept Middlestat. Not that he was great, but he was filling that role. So why did you need to get rid of even more assets to get rid of him if we're going to have the 2C obsession? So this is the problem, is that as an organization, you have to make a decision. So you can't keep chasing it. So if you're obsessing and you can't function without having this ideal center depth, you just made it even worse because of that move. If you're sitting there saying it absolutely can't be Charlie Coyle, why did you do it? Then you created another problem for yourself. But with Nelson, no, don't justify the trade by signing this guy. I get it. Everyone wants to save face and make it feel like they didn't trade for nothing. But that's what they did. They traded for 59 days. He was an okay player. He had decent moments, but he didn't drive play. He wasn't great analytically. He didn't score a goal. And I'm not one of those, if you don't score a goal, you're worthless. But still, 3 wins, 0 goals, 59 days. That's what you got. Accept your loss and move on. I don't think it makes sense to sign him for that kind of money. $7+ million. I mean, we're talking about all the other holes that they have, and that if you believe the justification that moving Mikko was to free up, but yet you're just okay throwing probably any shred of savings you have at this guy who hasn't been that good, hasn't been a great fit. He's going to be 34 years old. And then all of a sudden you're saying, I don't care about age because, their future's shot anyway. So you don't care about how that contract ages. We just want to continue the instant gratification in the next year, being able to tell ourselves, hey, we have a 2C. I mean, he's not even that guy. Like, he's been a solid player and he was solid in New York, but he wasn't like the 2C either. It's just, it's crazy how just it's not about reality. It's all about making yourself feel better is all the Nelson thing is.
I kind of agree with you, Jack. Here's the thing. You can't sometimes you just can't make up for your mistake. Sometimes you just have to take it on the chin and walk away. And I think there are two instances of this in this Avalanche offseason. One is I think you made a mistake in trading Mikko Rantanen. That's my opinion. Other people can tell me I'm wrong. That's fine. I think you also made a mistake in thinking that you could trade out of not hitting on Casey Middlestat. And in doing so, you had to leverage some things that you just otherwise. For instance, the Avs don't make that trade. They still get eliminated in the first round. But in this instance, they have a first round pick. They still have their best prospect in the system, and they can go to the marketplace of these unrestricted free agents like Sam Bennett and say, look, all right, we can get the guy who fits perfectly. As it is now, Jackie, you put it perfectly. There's pressure to bring Nelson back, fit be damned, because of the assets you gave for him. And I like, you guys know me. I don't like to beat up on the Avalanche. I'm an eternal optimist. It's been tough this postseason and offseason, tougher than most years, but I'm coming around. It took 2 weeks of being a terrible fan, and now I'm back to thinking like there's definitely a chance and a way to do this again. But Ezra, it's not going to come the way it has in terms of making those splash moves. Is that how you feel with a lot of these names on the wheel?
I mean, I think there's a splash move that I would really like, and that's Sam Bennett. But I don't think the reality. I don't think that's a realistic option. I don't think he hits free agency. But if he does, I mean, move mountains to get him. I think. Yeah, I'd be not mountains.
But he's not even a traditional 2C. Like he's 2C because Anton Lundell is 3C. Okay. It's whatever you write on paper. But I mean, the guy was a fourth liner not that long ago, and I at least like him, but. The thought that okay, this is the guy that fulfills 2C. I'm not there either.
I think he's the guy who brings a different element to the lineup that is needed, and where he fits in is at the 2C position. But
just because it's the Avs and they're desperate, but not because he's like an actual 2C.
No, because he's playing 2C on a team that won the Stanley Cup last year.
Well, because Lindell is their 3C. I mean.
Okay,
it depends what you have on paper. Like Dallas has Wyatt Johnston on fourth line on paper. I mean, he's not really that. It's just Bennett's a 2C because of what Florida
top 6
is.
Line on a Stanley Cup winner. I don't really understand this argument, Jackie. I'm sorry, but
because he's not a traditional center like that. He's that because he's on a good team. Like I said, Anton Lundell is not a 3C, but he's a 3C on paper.
So what? I mean,
Anton Lundell is probably truly their 2C, not Sam Bennett.
Okay, I think Bennett plays more minutes and he has the second best wing. I don't know what you're talking about. But what I wanted to say was that Ross
he's
Colton,
not a second line center.
I think that's an opinion, but I think you might have points. I'm with Ezra. Like, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Like, just because he doesn't fit the profile specifically to the T that you're looking for, I don't think that means he's in.
But that's what the Avs are doing. Like, all these other options aren't good enough.
But they have. Really here's centers. The thing, though, Jackie. If they don't bring back Nelson like we want, who's your best option? Probably
Coyle
Sam
and Colton.
Well, you still have, but I mean, you still have the money to spend, so you just want to pocket that.
Well, you need a defenseman.
So you're saying leave the 2C as is and go get some more defenders, because you have been long since said that like the defensive scoring touch was the Avs' competitive advantage, and that's gone into the night.
Well, so you do need a top 4 defenseman. Like, it's not a plan just to rent one every year. Like, that's not building a team. Yeah. Building a team is not just whatever you get at rentals.
Well, this wouldn't be a rental. This would be
right. I'm saying they need to fix that. I'm saying the thought that, we'll just get whatever we need as rentals is not building a team. That's not a solution.
Sure.
I mean, they need to upgrade everywhere else. I mean, they need a better than Kiviranta. They need better players. I mean, they're going to have to replace Drouin. He doesn't come back. You need a replacement there.
Bennett is what I'm saying. But I hear you. Regardless, like whether Sam Bennett is available or not, I think what the question that was answered this season was, is an older guy with a declining game the right way to go? Clearly no. They brought in two. It didn't work. I love the swing. I think they swung and they missed, and that's okay. Sometimes a good pitch beats you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the swing is worth swinging still. But going forward, the
Ask the
next swing
Rockies.
needs to be a little bit more informed. And if they make another move for an old guy like a Tavares or whoever else we want to talk about, that's going to be pretty frustrating to see. But if they are thinking seriously about a long-term answer, I'm interested to see what that looks like.
Yeah.
So for
I
me,
think that's fair.
Nelson's a no, but there's options out there that could be a yes if they actually hit free agency and then able to get it.
And I think what Jackie's trying to argue is that they have to sign him to make up for their horrendous.
She's saying they have
No,
to if
absolutely not.
They want to make that mistake, but she's saying don't make up for your bullshit no more. Just
that's a classic logical fallacy.
Oh, and it's like this could turn into the worst trade in Avs history.
I mean, it already is. It's already one of the worst moves the franchise has made.
Yeah,
it already is.
Richie had such a high ceiling that it.
If Richie pans out, we can have that conversation. But at this point, I think it's a little too early.
Well, here's the thing, though. I have made this argument online, Ezra, because I got to agree to a point. Because going back to what I talked about in terms of finding value in paying guys who are worth a lot more, a lot less than what they're worth. And when you find solutions internally, like, say, having Cal Ritchie try out the center position again next year and say it works sooner than anybody could have seen. Even if he slots somewhere further down in the lineup, it just allows you to experiment more on a more affordable basis. And then you have the change to spend because you're getting an important role internally. It's business, baby. They say hiring an external hire is more expensive than hiring internally. And that's even more so true in this situation, which is why, to me, I agree. The trade is lost because you gave up the potential for exactly the situation that I just put on the table, which to me is the most advantageous place to be as a franchise, where you're getting contributions from guys that you're not paying as well as you should in terms of that contribution. I laid it on the table with Dallas. They got Hartley and Johnston are on ELCs. And Duchesne is coming in at under $3 million, and he's on paper and in actual practice, they're 2C. So there are ways to do this, and he's electric on the power play for them, right?
Good teams need young impact players.
Period. And more
Carolina
than young,
has it,
cheap.
Florida has it, Dallas has it.
Yeah, and more than young, cheap.
Everyone's talking about Matthew Nyes this week. He was a late
expensive.
second rounder.
Yeah.
Like, you need one of them to work out. Now, whether or not Richie would have, I think they needed to commit to it just to see if it was going to happen. Yeah. I don't know if he's going to be amazing. The Islanders are not a good development organization themselves, so I'm a little concerned there. But there's two reasons why it was terrible. One is they needed to see it through. If it did or it didn't, regardless, that was their only chance. That was their only option to be able to keep up with the better teams in the league to get a young impact forward. The other thing is that's your only chip to trade. Now you can't trade that. You can't
That's
trade.
They're done now.
Make a trade like Vegas did for Barbashev. They traded a late first round prospect when they got Barbashev. So you can't do stuff like that anymore. The Avs didn't need to trade firsts and top prospects and empty the wallet to win a cup. So to think that you have to do it now means you are insecure, means you understand that you don't have a team good enough. And the instant gratification took over.
Sure.
And here we are.
Yep. But you know what? Like, here we are, and it's not an impossible puzzle still. It might be harder than the ones we've worked on before, but there's still a light at the end of the tunnel.
I don't think they have the tools. They don't have the capability, and they don't have the tools.
I would respectfully disagree.
They won one second round series in 20 years. They don't know how to
Dallas
do
hasn't
it under
Dallas hasn't won a Stanley Cup this decade.
Hey, I mean, they won the cup. I mean, I will never take away from them winning the cup.
Sure.
They built a great team and things went right like every other team needs. You need some fortune.
Sure.
That's great. But that doesn't mean that they're going to be able to do it again. Just like 48 points. There weren't that's not their identity either.
Yeah, sure.
They're not a 48-point team.
Yeah,
Things went bad. They made bad decisions. They were a 48-point team. It's the exact opposite with the Cup.
yeah.
It was a fantastic team. They had a great year and they did it.
They
That
made great
doesn't mean
choices. Yeah.
that they know what they're doing.
Well,
from
they
this
made great
point
choices
forward,
from this point.
operating-
Sure. Yeah.
Operating under a cap, in a salary cap where they're at the cap, they have to pay top players. Like we discussed before, they weren't back then. They made a lot of good moves for those RFAs. They don't have the money or the assets to make those RFA trades anymore. They don't know how to build. They don't have a development system. They don't know how to manage their assets. I do. I think about this. What would I tell people that want to have hope?
Yeah.
I truly cannot find the answer. I really, truly can't. I mean,
I got
you sold
more.
McKinnon and McCarr.
No, I got
That's
more than
fun.
that.
But as far
And
as
vaguely,
hope,
don't even mention the fact that Barons be traded. Shut your mouth.
Barons has no value. Like he's not
Not
gonna be
right
traded 'cause
now.
He has no value.
Because he hasn't played. But yes,
when he has
vaguely
15
sober, do
points
not
in the-
even mention that.
When he has 15 points in the AHL next year because he's not touching the power play, he's not going to have value.
Yeah.
But you get my point.
Why
Don't even
be a
say it.
fan?
Yeah. My thing, I'll give you reasons, Jackie. I'll give you reasons. I got your back. All right. Here's the thing. It always comes from a place that you don't expect. When the Avalanche drafted Cale Makar, we were pissed because the Avs didn't get the first overall pick. And sure as shit, it ended up being better off not having the first overall pick. In the situation with Cal Ritchie, we lose our best prospect. Well, now that means somebody else is the new best prospect. And perhaps that person becomes a player that we didn't anticipate. That's why we do it. I know, Jackie, you're like, well, which one? Point to one towards me.
Well,
But
yeah, it's
my
the one that
point
they
is,
didn't have to actually actively do anything.
yeah,
to
but I
get
think
there.
I think there are guys who will surprise us in the short term that we don't see right now, and I do think that some of them will be guys that were brought in this year that didn't get a runway in terms of being a part of the team in camp. The Coyles, the Jack Drurys, the flippin' Marty Natcheses. We will know more midway through next season, I think, than we do now about this team's identity. They've been tested early on in the form of the highest and most difficult series, I think, in the time that I've watched, and I've watched every series. I haven't watched every game, but I've watched every series, and I would argue that the Avs and the Stars were among the cleanest and the best hockey games played between teams. And so I think that there's plenty to be excited about. And I asked this in the poll: if the Avs lose to Dallas and Dallas goes on to win the Stanley Cup, does it hurt more or does it hurt less? A lot of people said more, division rivals, Mikko Rantanen. But in the competitor in me, I feel like it's less because the Avs were 10 minutes away from beating that team. And that just goes to show that this team wasn't as far away as we felt. They won 3 games against this Dallas team. They won. I mean, if you put it in terms of how long they led, I know everyone hates that, but they led like literally a gross majority of the series and still somehow lost. So
They
I
still
think
were missing their 2 best players too.
Sure. But I think that there's something to be excited about in Colorado still. That's all I'm saying. I don't think that it feels so doom and gloom right now, for myself included, because of the Mikko thing. And it's like someone just leaning on your wound over and over again. Not only are you not watching your team in the playoffs, but you're watching a guy who used to light it up for you continue to move on. In a lot of people's minds, he's been the best player in the playoffs. It's possible that if they win, he wins the Conn Smythe. Like, it's not easy to watch, but it's also like not over. The sky is not falling.
Well, I think where they need to start is just get players that people can root for, emotionally attached to. I think that's step one. Like, not think about like, oh, what do they need to do to win the cup, or what about wins and losses, because we know they're going to win a fair amount, especially if McKinnon and Makar are healthy. Like, you know, that's definitely the foundation of hope, that they at least have that. But for me, I think it just needs to get back to so much basics.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you even like about this team? Like, they need to
we
even
talked
just
about
become
that. Yeah.
likable. You know, like Kivi Ranta and those people, that's not why you like this team. Like, okay, maybe some people out there are Kivi Ranta fans. I'm sorry, but I recognize there are out there. But they just need to get back to connecting with their fans, caring about their fans. Like, they have work to do too. It's not just about like, you know, just signing a bunch of free agents. They need to build a team again. They need to build the Avalanche again. And that's more than just wins and losses. Like, this was a team full of mercenaries, temporary players, rentals, guys shuffled back and forth. Like, what I just want at the basic level is a team.
Sure.
Well, and in their defense, I mean, there's circumstances that cause that situation. That
winning for one makes it impossible.
Winning. Players move on at the end of their contracts because they can't be re-signed. But more specifically, you had $7 million of uncertain money in a guy who is the core of that team.
I mean, that doesn't get you to 50 players played. That doesn't get you to 14 players that weren't even at training camp.
Sure.
Like,
no, but
winning teams dress between like 30 and 35 players. That's normal. So 50 isn't just like, oh, we had injuries and we got up to 50. Like, no, you didn't need to make, 7 or 8 trades in the season. Like, it's not just like, oh, you just want every single person to play every single game and don't expect one additional person. Like, the winning teams all bring in about 2 to 3 players a season.
Yeah.
So what they did absolutely the antithesis of team.
Yeah. Brandon, you're commenting on Nick, who said, bring in
Brad Marchand.
There you go. Well, Brandon, I know you got to sign off. Give us your thoughts real quick and then give us your send off so I can let you go do your thing.
Well, it's true. They do need to build a team. They can't have, these top 3, top 4 players and then be like, oh, we're good. You can't have it. Think about back to 22 when it was a team that you were afraid to play because they were rolling. It was all 4 lines.
Yep.
And I felt like this year that was not the case. It was 2.5 lines if you were lucky. And because by the time you got to the 4th line, it was just like, okay, we're out here just to give the first line some time to rest.
And do you remember the narratives of that 22 team? It was the room was so good. This is the best room you've ever been a part of. Remember, everyone here earned the right to see this through. We don't want to bring in too much to disrupt the room. It's funny how the narrative was completely different this year.
Yeah, it's like we need to get guys in here that help with the room. I think that's what we kept hearing over and over and over again. He's good in the room. That's why we brought him in. I think that's why they brought in both Blackwood and Wedgwood, was because they're good in the room.
Those were good moves. Those were the good moves.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but I'm
they
just
also
saying,
it's not instant. Like, if you want people to become the fabric of your culture,
It's
they weren't even at
over
your
time.
training camp.
Exactly.
Where's the foundation even?
That's why I say, though, you have something to look forward to in terms of that, Jackie.
Could it begin? Could it begin moving forward? You have them; they're comfortable. The guys they bring back are going to be more comfortable with each other. Absolutely, but it's a start. You have to start building the foundation. It's not overnight.
You have to commit to that sort of thinking. You're totally right.
And the 22 team, the building of that team started years before that. And and so I think I don't think it's going to get as bad as 16-17.
No, I don't say that either. I don't.
Oh no. God, I hope not.
No, I don't think so. That was a special kind of bad.
That was
because I sat through 30 games that year.
You guys want to hear something crazy? That was actually my first season as a full season ticket holder.
That was my first season as a quarter season ticket holder.
Yeah.
And then I bought additional tickets like an idiot.
Yeah.
But I think the risk is the Calgary zone, the mediocrity, the low end playoff team. I think that's the greatest risk. Now,
I mean, LA, not to be rude, but LA was supposed to be a great playoff team this year, and still they're not. That's kind of how I feel.
And
the Leafs vaguely sober says the Leafs, I mean, they're pretty much a good comparable. 7 straight Game 7 losses. You know,
And then on one side of the coin, at least you have that. At least you're competitive.
Yeah.
I remember how nerve-wracking and gut-wrenching it was just to even make the playoffs.
Sure.
So I do understand, like, to be able to get to that point is being fortunate. Well, we'll see. We'll see how hard it is moving forward. But
good work, Jackie, because I just thought about remember Miko jumping on the dog pot? Remember game 82 that it took?
That was such a huge moment
It
for
was
sure.
It was
so
like
I do remember how much of a
beard growth
hurdle
guys,
that
by the way.
was to climb that, to even get to that point. But I do, like I said, I think the greatest risk is mediocrity.
Yeah, we got a beard comment. Every episode we get somebody commenting on our beard. This one says, as a barber, I love the show because it has every stage of beard growth.
Well, I have to shave because I'm in the press box.
Never change, Polar Knights. Sounds good. You either.
But to finish up my comments is just, I don't think we're going to get as bad as 16, 17.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to dip, and it will be soon.
Mm-hmm.
And people need to learn to deal with that.
I think that the Avs will have less regular season success next year than they've had in years past. I agree. But I don't think they'll ever be touted as a team who isn't capable, as long as they do have, the MVP and the Norris winner.
Well, and if you look at the future of the draft and how many picks they have and how many assets they have left, they don't got much left. So there ain't much to build on. So it's going to have to be UFAs, college signings, and things like that. So you have to figure it's going to be a rough few years.
Yeah.
And so be prepared. And Bednar is going to be exactly like Bud Black.
Careful.
Well, no. I'm just saying, he's
fired.
He's gonna perform with the tools that he's given.
Sure.
I mean, they may be very, very sharp tools like Mason McKinnon and Cale Makar and Devon Tays and Mackenzie Blackwood.
Sure.
But the other ones are going to be really blunt tools and not be able to perform like the success that you'd want them to. So everyone needs to learn. It's not always the coach's fault. So he's not.
But isn't that kind of crazy to say that their fate is basically set in what Makar and McKinnon do?
Mm-hmm.
No, and then that means it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much you throw at the rest.
Well, is it crazy right now for Edmonton with Draisaitl and McDavid?
Well, I mean, like we said, their other pieces are performing.
But
right, and that's the year that they were like, hey, maybe this is the year they have a chance, which I think is exactly what the Avs were. The year that they won the cup was the year where like, oh, everything else is working.
Let's remember that McDavid and Draisaitl have combined for like a whopping, I swear to God, it's like 33 points, and the Edmonton Oilers have scored like 60 goals in all of the playoffs. But also,
none of us think they're going to win.
Sure,
win it all.
I didn't think they'd be this far, though. Is my point. I thought they were going to lose to LA in round 1.
And the reason that we don't believe in them is their goaltending is insanely unstable. Which, if you believe in Mackenzie Blackwood, you can say Colorado Avalanche don't have that situation quite the same. I think ultimately, like the reason to be optimistic about Colorado is if you look around the league, I think you can count on one hand the number of teams that wouldn't switch places with Colorado right now.
I don't know about that.
I think
start listening. Right. I think you'll run out of time.
Buffalo hasn't made the playoffs in 14 years?
I'm not even talking about the past. I'm talking about the cap situation, the roster, all of it.
I don't know about that. The asset situation. I mean, yes, you would love to have the stars, but everything else,
those are assets,
such a downgrade.
Jackie.
Yes, it's important, but they're also not the only team out there with stars.
Sure.
There's a lot of
Jackie, I'd love
Toronto. Toronto is one of them. That's challenge is for all of us to come up with five teams, 10 teams. Is that what you said?
If you can get past 5, I'll be impressed.
Of the entire league, that would rather be Colorado.
League.
Yeah.
How about the 5 that got further than them? It's easy.
Yes, there are 4.
Yeah,
there are 4 that got further than them.
But I'd rather be the Avalanche than Winnipeg.
Peter, assets eventually do win games.
Yeah. players do. Yeah. Well, let me ask you this.
they're
Did
not
this-
any better than New Jersey. They're
Let me
not
ask you
any
this.
better than a
Yes,
lot
Jackie.
of other teams.
Jackie, do
Yes,
you
they
think
are.
this team was not good? And let me put it this way: did this team have the capability to execute and win the first round, but they didn't execute, or do you think that they just didn't have the pieces?
I mean, what's the question? Could they have won in the first round? Yeah, I mean, they were in Game 7 and they had the lead. Yes, they could have
Was
won.
the problem? I guess the question is: was the problem more execution than personnel?
No,
in this?
they never
No?
had the talent. No.
Oh, I would disagree with that. I mean, I think
What,
the
a bunch of
underlying
33-year-old, like what?
the
Coyle,
underlying.
Nelson,
I
and
mean,
Lindgren were
I'm
the
not
difference?
I'm not basing it off names. I'm basing it off underlying statistics. And the
No,
Avs,
they didn't have the talent. No, and
the
we've
Avs
been
were
down the analytic. Yes, they were a good analytic team. Analytic is just one part of it. They didn't have the talent. Like the guys that the
talent
argument
contributes
is
to
that
analytics,
made them
but
better were all their lowest analytic players. They never had the talent. When you're having like Kivi Ranta and Parker Kelly, you don't have the talent. Like, could they have won round 1? Yes, but to just assume they were going to roll over Winnipeg, do something that they only did once in 20 years, which is win in the second round. Just assume that because, hey, they're amazing. No, I'm not, not going there. No, I always thought
I assume it because they did it
was a
last year.
talent problem. It was a talent problem.
I mean, I think they did it last year with a less talented team than they had this
In
year,
Winnipeg,
in my opinion.
yeah.
In Winnipeg, that's just my opinion. But, and I don't think yeah, Brendan,
Shouts
we
out
love you, brother.
Rantanen back then.
I
Thank you
gotta
for
go,
joining
guys.
us. Appreciate
Gotta
you,
get the
man. You
little
have a
guy.
good one. Yeah, go get the guy. So, Brendan Vogt of Hockey Mountain High, thank you for joining the program, my friend, and for sharing with your esteemed following and colleagues. We appreciate you, brother. Have a good one.
You too.
Thank you. But Jackie, I mean, I don't want to like completely like go off into this tangent, but like I feel like I can't allow you to go and put this team into the box that you're trying to, which is like there's no hope.
I mean, I get that nobody wants to agree there's no hope because then like
Yeah.
what's the
And
point
no
of
one
following
should.
it? I get that part. So I understand that you are probably very few people want to agree because you have to have hope to continue on. I get that.
Yeah.
But
It's just
they
reasonable.
weren't that close. It was a talent problem. And they
Okay.
didn't have a team. I think those were fundamentally their problems.
I would agree with two of those things. I would say they didn't have a team that spent enough time together to be able to weather the ebbs and flows of playoff hockey in terms of momentum. I agree with that. I also think that they're a team that their weaknesses are the worst weaknesses to have in the playoffs, which were they could not execute on special teams and they couldn't keep the other team from executing on special teams. And they made untimely mistakes that they couldn't bounce back from. And those are characteristics of a team that you can change, I think, over time. I think that as this team learns to play together in the next season, those guys like, the goaltenders too, and how that room starts to glue over a full season and a camp as you've brought to the table, Jackie, I think that will start to show up. I
said, they need to just start with making a team. Like thinking about they're one piece away or they need to fill this hole or fill this position. I just think they need to go get so far back to the basics. That doesn't mean get rid of everything, but just fundamentally get back to the basics.
I think that's a fair request.
I think that's a path forward. Even if you're not looking at, well, how are you going to do that? What assets, what money? But just get back to that. Yes, I think that's a path forward.
And
how do you define that? Because how do you define that?
Well, I think that's the problem because when you get into the nitty gritty and you get into the details, that's where I find the problems. So you don't want to hear how do they do that.
No. Well, I don't mean how do they do that. I mean, what do you mean?
Build a team. Build a team. You need to find the fabric of the Avalanche again. This team that they rolled out, that was not the Avalanche. Mm-hmm. You had a few recognizable pieces. I'm not saying never get another. I mean, I do think rentals are terrible no matter what. But I know they're always going to get one or two. But you need to get back to the thinking, like how Brennan said, is true. They built for 5 years to get to the Cup team.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's going to take 5 years, but this is what they should have recognized, that they weren't at that stage anymore and that they needed to build. That doesn't mean bottom out, tank, because we said you can expect the playoffs with McKinnon and Makar. So they should have recognized they had that luxury. They had kind of that landing, that minimum.
Right.
And then to begin to build on top of that, rather than trying to save face, trying to look better than you were because of the Miko trade. And then it was all about this year, and it was never going to be this year. They were third in their division the whole year. Like, this was the one that you were saying, chips all in, this is going to be the year.
So it was last year.
It never was.
Yeah.
So what do they need to do to get back to it? Just build a team. I mean, quit having the thinking that this is the year, this is the all-in year. Like I said, that doesn't mean giving up the playoffs. If you know that you have a reasonable expectation of playoffs, that's such a luxury that you can be able to build knowing that that's your likely minimum anyway, rather than like this desperation.
I see what you're saying. Because you're saying like they need to let their identity actually set in, because they've never afforded themselves the time since forming that team to become like we've spent so much time grasping at 2022 again that we've never just become the 2025 version of the Avalanche or the 2026 version of the Avalanche. I can get on board with that. And what I'm excited about is I think at this point, at this juncture, because trying the all-in twice in a row approach didn't work twice in a row, and it worked less the second time around than it did.
I mean, maybe the hope is they just can't.
That's one. I don't think they have the assets to play that card again. And two, with that being said, I think with Landeskog coming back, guys like Natchez getting camps, guys like Jack Drury getting camps, you'll start to see that cohesion, that identity. It's like we talked about game 82 when the Avs beat St. Louis in the dog pile. That was such a big moment. Credit, Jackie, because we were in love with the character of that team, and we thought that the character of that team deserved and had earned a chance to go prove themselves in the playoffs. And this version of the team, when we look at them every single year, it's not about earning or deserving, it's about expecting. And that mind frame has changed in the fans' perspective. What would we have given in 2019 to be having these problems where it's like, oh, well, we just can't keep it. We just can't advance in the playoffs.
I mean, we would definitely, we never give the cup back. But I think a lot of it is like, we should be thankful we're here because of the cup. To me, those are two separate things. We should be thankful for the cup. Absolutely. But does that affect where we are today?
Shouldn't.
Because today is about watching this team and the next game and the next journey. And I don't think, like I said, I think those are two separate things. That yes, we would love that there was a cup, but where we sit today and how we get back there, I don't think sitting in 2019, they're at any better place.
The Avs tried to do what they do in the NFL every year. And to their credit, Florida has done it now twice in a row, with going and getting Marchand at the dead. Like they dump their assets every time. The difference is that Florida has a little bit of a financial advantage in their compensation and how that works out. They can wiggle. They have a little more wiggle
better
room.
Contracts.
Yeah,
I mean, they only have two guys making $10 million now. Is that? I don't know. I don't buy into the whole the tax woe is me stuff.
Sure.
Like they just planned better. I mean, you got Sam Reinhart for $8.6 million. Sure, was that a little bit of a tax, but I mean, it's still $8.6 million. Like they have $19 million in cap space this summer. And the only guys they have to sign are Bennett and Ekblad. Like they just planned better. Like the Avs built a team that was fantastic one year, and it's fantastic that they did it when they had that team. But they didn't build a team that was going to be there every single year.
Well, they are there every.
It's impossible.
I don't know.
In the playoffs every year, sure, but not winning.
They didn't get to bring that exact team. Then, well, not even that exact team because nobody does. But they didn't get the luxury of having the players they expected in the lineup the following playoffs. So that's not really entirely.
okay,
2020,
but we're not
2023
we're not
was rough.
I'm
talking
talking about Landeskog. I'm talking about
Yeah,
Landeskog.
2023,
Its own thing.
24. Yeah,
Players go missing in the playoffs because of injury or whatever
Mhm.
else. That happens. But Landeskog is a big blow to a team. That's hard to overcome.
well,
And
the
I think that's something to look forward to. Is he's back now? Let's see what difference that makes.
yep. In terms of that
And
character,
yes,
that
that is a wild card, but we are so far away. Like, if the argument was, could the team the following year have gotten further? Could they have gone out of the second round? Maybe, but we're not there anymore. We're not at that team anymore. We're like, the Cup team is definitely done. It's gone.
Sure.
So we're talking about this team.
It's got to be a different version. Yeah, like not a different version, a different team. Period.
Yeah.
Like, that was my point of like grasping so hard to get back to, like, everyone said it when it happened. Like, this is a once in a generation team. This isn't the kind of team that you can just build over and over again. Now, that truth, I don't think seeped fully into the subconscious of management, in the sense that they were like, well, nah, we still have the main pieces of that. And if we still have the main pieces of that, we can patchwork everything else. But I don't think that's true.
And they had to patchwork everything else because they were unsure if Gabe Landeskog's contract was going to come back.
Sure.
They
because
they
they
weren't
just
in a position where they didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Well, they also they're not a builder. They're a buyer.
Yep.
And when the wallet's empty, it's empty. Like, you just can't.
True.
There's no path for them to replicate what they did.
Only thing they can do now is leverage assets for assets and numbers, and that's back to the going closer to the paperclip conversation.
And that's why the deadline was such a disaster, because even before the deadline, they still were in an okay position. They still had the assets. They were never a team that went heavy on rentals. They were never a team that needed to spend the most on a rental. I mean, they almost spent what Dallas spent on an extended Rantanen for a rental, for a 33-year-old rental. And that's where
Miko was pretty incentivized in terms of other aspects.
But still, when something like that comes down the pike, then you have the assets for that, not because you were insecure. I mean, that's why they did what they did. They were absolutely insecure in their position. And it's hard to see that. It's hard to see a path forward, because that's kind of the last of what they've done.
Well,
so
and then
could they do things this summer? We'll see.
Yeah.
But they kind of wasted it for themselves.
Yeah. To me, what they did this year, if they would have waited until next year to like truly do this with probably another crack at a long-term solution at 2C, so that at the deadline, it is really, once again, just about establishing offensive prowess on the defensive core, then I think that's an easier problem to fix financially and in terms of what assets you need to send over. But because they saw themselves as, once again, a 2C away, they thought, F these picks, as Evan loves to say, and sent the best asset and the best prospect for what they perceived as the only hole in the roster. And I mean, there's parts of me that are right there with you, Jackie, where I'm like, well, that was naive. But there's also parts of me where I'm like, you kind of got to keep doing that to satisfy the personalities on your roster. And I know that that's a slippery slope, but we heard McKinnon after the trade went down, verbatim, he said, first round picks don't win you Stanley Cups. Now, it's kind of ironic as a first-round pick for him to be saying that.
It's funny that Miko said that he was attracted to Dallas because they had good young players.
Yeah, isn't that funny? So, well, we're already well beyond.
Yeah, McKinnon needs to look at, if he truly believes that, he needs to look at some rosters.
Yeah. Well, we've gone an hour and a half in the offseason. Look at us go. I think, see what happens when we save topics for a couple of weeks. I was going to do bold predictions, but none of them have settled because we did like postseason long ones. Can we just predict?
Say McDavid wins the Conn Smythe again because.
Okay. Yeah, you have that one down. Well, what about so a couple of cool things. We get the PWHL finals start tonight between the Ottawa Charge and the Minnesota Frost. That's pretty sweet. And then, of course, the NHL are having their own games today. A game, which will start out in the West. I wish it was Avs versus Oilers. Stars versus Oilers. That'll be tomorrow at 6 p.m. And then tonight we'll start in the East with Carolina and Florida. I want to get y'all's. I'm not sure if we'll be back before those series end. I hope so. But let's just get your guys' predictions for each anyway. Ezra, we'll start with you. Dallas or Edmonton, and then Florida or Carolina.
I'm going to pick Dallas and Carolina. It has nothing to do with Mikko. It's just those are the two better teams.
Yeah, the people are already calling that the Mikko Bowl if that happens. Jackie, what are your picks?
I'll say Dallas and Florida. Just I like Carolina, but it's hard to pick against the defending champ when they're rolling. So
Sure.
I think, but I'd be happy to see Carolina in it. I just don't like Edmonton. Sorry, I don't have a problem with Dallas. Like, I understand their division rival, and there's a lot of reasons why fans don't like Dallas. But to me, I just like their team. I like their players. I like Mikko.
Yeah, I do too. I would root for them if they didn't have Jamie Benn.
Same.
That's truly, like,
Well, I
he's
think
the only
every
reason.
team has unsavory characters. I don't
He
really
is
get into that.
particularly unsavory.
Jamie Benn has just done too much for me to root for the Dallas Stars. But I mean, you literally have here's the thing. Matt Duchene left on bad terms. He was my favorite Avalanche before McKinnon showed up. Mikko Rantanen left on surprising terms, but he was my favorite Avalanche in his time here. So it's like you're talking about two of my favorite players to have ever won Burgundy and Blue, and now they're playing for another team. And so I'm like,
and a team that really has invested in their youth, invested in their development system. They're doing it without.
They look kind of like the 2022 Colorado Avalanche
without top 10 picks, other than Heiskanen. They're doing it without top picks. They're doing it with low first rounders, with second rounders. So I would like to see that rewarded.
So we got one Dallas versus Florida, and we got one Dallas versus Carolina in the Mikko Bowl. I'm saying it's going to be the Mikko Bowl as well. I just think that for one more year, we're going to have no one has ever won a cup with a $10 million plus player because Aho's at 9.75 and Sagan is at 9.85, I think, for Dallas. Those are their top paid players. I think this will be the last year that's true, but this year it'll still remain true because I see those teams as deeper, and a part of that is how their payment structure is set out. So we all at least have Dallas in the final. That I don't think that's surprising based on the fact that we've gotten.
We don't like Edmonton.
Yeah, we've gotten that'll go to show how much we really don't like Edmonton. that we're willing to pick Mikko Rantanen and the Dallas Stars rather than the Oilers. But
I think it also gets back to what you said. Like, if they win the cup, then Avs fans say, "Wow, we were in Game 7 with the team that won the cup."
Yeah,
that part of that is making yourself feel better.
From the get-go, that was the series. I was like, this is the Stanley Cup champion. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's an easy one. And I picked Carolina before the playoffs to be the Eastern champion.
You did.
I'm sticking with my guns.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, you two. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me today. We went a little bit long, but it was fun. I had a good time. We'll probably be back in a couple of weeks. We're going to split these shows up a little bit with obviously the Avs not partaking in action. But as those 2 weeks roll by, we start to build up on news and topics. And as you can see, we have plenty to touch on. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks in front of you folks for episode 106. This has been 105, and I titled it On and On because we just keep on talking about the Colorado Avalanche, and it just keeps going on, and it will into perpetuity, even when we stop having these podcast broadcasts. So thank you for coming out. Please head on over to our website, milehighhockey.com. Please give us a follow on your preferred social media platform. On X, we can be found at all caps MHH_lab and at Mile High Hockey. And, of course, be on the lookout for some of our off-season topics and content. Jackie, I know, I'm not sure when, but as usual, we'll be putting out our top 25 under 25 here in the off-season.
Right after the draft, so we can add that fourth rounder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, whoever that is.
Preliminary was putting the list together. Some will have to depend if they get a qualifying offer like Foodie. Gotcha. So we don't know yet, but we might not make 25.
top 20 under 20. And then it gets you start playing crazy games then. But yeah, okay, sounds good. But we'll get to that. I am still working on my Avs Chronicles, which will be a timeline kind of sort of documentary style of some of the trades and other things that have happened in Avalanche history. The first episode is going to be on Patrick Waugh trade, and that should be hot off the press here in a couple of weeks as well. So be on the lookout for that. And Ezra's got his Friday feels, his everything else that you might Sundays. Not Friday feels, but head on over to Ezra's stuff as well on the website. And of course, Ezra, thank you for always appearing on the podcast. I really appreciate you. On behalf of Jackie and Ezra, my name is Adrian Hernandez, and this has been the Mile High Hockey Lab. Until next time, go Avalanche.
Thank you for tuning into the Mile High Hockey Lab.